All right, Steve Maeda here with Austin Men's Development. Should we hire an attorney who is not a family law attorney when we're going through a divorce? This comes up all the time, or a friend, or somebody who owes us a favor, or somebody who's doing trade with us. Should we do this? And the fast answer is no, you should not do this. You should not ever do it. In fact, my last custody case that I had, my ex was doing some really, really nasty stuff, and she made the mistake. My heart goes out to her for this, even though we were adversaries in this, but she got to a point where she could have been put in jail. She still could. She could have the kids forcibly removed from her. We decided not to take that action, all because she decided to hire a criminal defense attorney to represent her who didn't know family law, who didn't know how to protect her, and put her in a bad spot. You should never do that. We'll tell you the story here in just a second as much as I can, and let's get to it. So this is a question that came up today on Austin Men's Development, I think in a private chat that I was having with somebody, and it's real common. And I did this, the first time I got sued in terms of business. What happened was I got a lawyer friend of mine to do me a favor to help me out. This wrecked everything. So it was terrible. It was a case in California, and a Texas lawyer who had passed the bar and was... man, how do you say this, man? I can't think, I can always talk, but hey, age creeps up on you. So they said they represent me because they could practice within California, and they messed it up. They pissed off the judge. It wrecked everything. That case could have gotten thrown out, from the beginning. The people suing me made a bunch of mistakes. They really didn't have much of a case. The problem is that attorney shared too much information of mine. That attorney did not protect me properly. That attorney pissed off the judge, and I had to actually fly to California to do an ex parte hearing, which means an emergency hearing. I had to go in front of the judge and ask for an extension. In that extension, oh man, it was pretty fun. There's so much I could talk about it. I was able to stay in California and hire a different attorney who saved a lot, but it cost me something like $15,000 extra just because that first attorney made a mistake. And it was really actually amazing. It was amazing. The attorney who saved my butt, man, she is awesome. And eventually went on to do great, great things. You don't ever want to hire somebody outside of the expertise of what you're about to deal with. And especially if your case is complex, and a lot of times, sadly, they are. Now, in divorce and child custody, you have to realize that you're most likely going to end up with, at minimum, standard visitation, and your child support set at whatever the laws in your county are, at 20% or 25% or whatever it is of the income that you take in. And it's just that easy. It's black and white. Now, within that, there's all this paperwork, and there's all this fighting, and there's all these threats back and forth. There's all this pressure from the other side. And we all get this, that family law is something that is just a racket. It's a business. It's a business first, but there are really great lawyers. What's interesting in my last case is I had an excellent family law attorney. I talk about him all the time. I've referenced him to many people. When it comes down to family law, there's particular things which are really, they're black and white, and a family law attorney is going to get that. My ex started this all off by making all these threats. She, as you guys may or may not know, my older kids, they were taken away from me. There were child abuse claims put on me. I was charged. It was a horrible court. That was another thing where, I had to fight, and I ran out of money. It was just a terrible experience. You never want to be put in that. And there's a whole story of why you need to take the right actions right away when those things happen. So if you are a guy who's gotten a protective order put on you, you need to take specific actions for that, and find videos that either I've done or somebody else has done on what you need to do if you get a child protective order put on you, because you cannot slack on it like I did. And so that was about 10 years ago. So fast forward, start a family, have 2 more kids. My ex and I break up. She gets really pissed off at me, and she does what a lot of women do. And I hate this about the process, but it's so typical. I've coached thousands of guys on this. The first thing she did when she was caught with stuff, and she went with it for almost a month, telling family members, telling her attorney, man, I don't know how much I should really say about this, but it'll come out eventually, that I was abusing the kids. It was obvious that I wasn't there were tons of witnesses. There's so many ways to counter that, but I didn't know that at the time. So when I started hearing this, I hired a lawyer immediately and took action. She hired an attorney there were a lot of stupid reasons to it. And it turned out to be, I don't think she even knows how tragic it is because we didn't push it as hard as we could have. We went with a strategy that was real smart. So my attorney in Austin, came up with it. I also had some other advisor attorneys that helped me out, which more in the beginning. Eventually it was all my one attorney who came up with it. And we came up with a plan that was really smart and even more intelligent because my attorney, before my ex had hired somebody, was guessing that she would not hire a good family law attorney just because of some of the stuff that he had read about her and we had studied on her. My attorney was excellent. He made a whole psychological profile about her and did tons of research on her. And I don't think she knew or her attorney knew what that would be like. Eventually, at the last minute, we found out that she had hired an attorney, and it was right. He was right. It was based on his psychological profile of who she would hire. I mean, this was really some amazing stuff. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And he knew then the direction to go. We did a deposition. In that deposition, he also, based on her psychological profile, went in a certain direction, cornered her in some ways. Now, let me just back up for a second. In this, I had a case, and I knew some areas to look of where I had a case. Okay, so I knew that I could press in certain directions. I also was honest with my attorney, and this is something that you should really, for a video in the future, I knew all the skeletons in my closet, which were amazing because there were not that many. But I wrote them all down. We researched them. We researched how I could get in trouble with them, and none were really criminal activities or anything like that. The interesting thing is that she had some of those. In the deposition, he took her psychological profile and those things and pressed her for it, and she admitted to more. The deposition is, between attorneys. It's not in front of a judge. It's private, but it is under oath, and it is recorded. We did ours over video with her. And in that, she admits to stuff which would put her in jail. As my attorney says at the end of the deposition, he says, right now I could go to any judge, walk down the street, and hand this videotape to a judge, and you would have the kids forcibly removed, and you would potentially go to jail, prison, whichever. I'm not sure if it's a state jail felony or a federal offense or whatever. And there were multiple actually, where she put herself in, and all we want to do is settle, and make this offer. That happened. She was put in that position, and again, I decided, my attorney and I decided, my family and I decided not to take steps towards that. It's black and white obvious that we had a major case to get full custody and to also take separate cases to put her in prison. Now that I think about it, they're pretty, anyway, whatever. They're pretty substantial acts that she had admitted to and placed herself into. We decided not to do that. That's all because her attorney didn't understand the laws, didn't prep her properly for a deposition, did not tell her what she could and couldn't say in a deposition, did not prep her in terms of what he thinks she might be lying about, what he thinks she might be telling the truth about. Didn't tell her even what was relevant and irrelevant in a child custody case. What she would have gone to prison for has nothing to do, well, actually one of them directly has to do with child custody, but the other one doesn't, or there are a couple actually. So the interesting thing about that is that her attorney is a good attorney. He's a good criminal defense attorney. He has a great record, but not a family law guy. Dropped the ball massively, let his client walk into a sworn under oath, videotaped, recorded for the rest of time court procedure without preparing her. When I walked into mine, I knew everything that I could say, couldn't say. If you're in a deposition and you're saying something you might incriminate yourself with, you can do all sorts of stuff like plead the fifth. You can plead the fifth in certain ways. I mean, it's really ridiculous. So you need to be able to hire the right attorney for you. And if you don't, you really put yourself in a position where if you have something that you need to be protected by, that is illegal, that could get you in trouble, that could keep you from seeing your kids for the rest of your life, you want that. You want that. In any case, hopefully this all makes sense. Guys, if you are in a divorce and child custody case, there's a lot that goes into it where you don't have to pay a massive retainer to an attorney. You don't have to even have an attorney in some cases. And most of the times I would recommend too. But what you do need is you need to know where you're at. What I always say is get in a men's group, get the support system that you need, because they can navigate things that your attorney won't be able to. They're on the clock all the time. At least my group's there. They're 24/7. If you're a part of a men's group, they can also help you out with your therapeutic decisions and choices and all these different things. But download my free PDF, The Single Dad's Guide to Divorce and Child Custody, and it will set you straight and where you need to go. In any case, you can have a great life after divorce. You can have a great life as a single dad. If you don't believe that, man, don't let it ruin your life like I've seen it ruin so many men's lives and take away decades of greatness that they could have lived. In any case, we'll talk to you guys soon. Come on by Austin Men's Development, and let's live a good life, guys. All right, it's out there waiting for you. Talk to you soon.